super aggressive that evening.
Yes.
You told us this morning they were hostile, right? Is it fair to say it seemed like they wanted to fight?
Yes.
If I can have just a moment.
Right. Redirect.
Thank you. Just a few follow-up questions, Jacob. When you spoke to the police, I just want you to tell the jury what kind of emotional state you were in when you first spoke to the police.
Unstable.
Did you feel like all the answers you were giving to the police at that moment were 100% correct?
I can say for sure, looking back over these now, that they weren't.
And as time has passed, have you been able to reflect on what happened that night and come to a clear memory of what occurred?
I wouldn't say exactly clear, but yes.
Have you been able to clarify some of these answers for us today?
Yes.
Thank you. So on the point that counsel asked you about 8 to 10 people, do you remember on a follow-up interview saying that that could have been exaggerated because of your emotional state?
Yes.
So we just want your best memory today. How many people do you recall confronting you in the street?
I can't say for sure, but my best estimate is, like I said, 5 to 7.
Okay. And when you said that these 2 or 3 people were running at the defendant when you spoke to the police back in the day, today, what do you recall them doing?
I can't say how fast they were moving, but just one sec, that means. Yeah, I can't say for sure. It was the point in time where everything kind of is really fuzzy, but they for sure were moving towards him, is all I can say for sure.
Can you say for sure if they had anything in their hands?
No.
Can you say for sure if they said anything?
No.
Can you say for sure that if the defendant said anything?
I do recall him saying things before.
But you don't recall what he said?
I can't say for sure, but no, I won't.
Okay. When you talked about with counsel just a moment ago about multiple people or people being on top of the defendant or around the defendant, when you observed that happening, was that what actually happened?
Multiple people?
Yes.
No, there was just one, like the guy from the video that we saw earlier. That was him. He was the only one there.
Okay, so when you spoke to the police, how did you come to the conclusion when you spoke to the 911 dispatcher that there were people or multiple people around?
When I was talking to the dispatcher, I read over the whole transcript from that, and everything I said was kind of all over the place and strange. And what I was repeating, that I think I said exactly, they're killing my friend, like, yeah, and I was just hysterics and out of my mind, I guess.
Okay, because when you look down or at the defendant,
Yeah,
what was happening?
he was choking him.
And there was one person.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up a little bit. This was a conversation you had with 911 dispatch after the shots occurred?
Yes.
So this choking incident hadn't occurred before the defendant showed up with a gun?
No.
And just to clarify one point the counsel asked you about, you testified earlier that the defendant raised the light, we know now as the gun, at these folks, and then they ran at him or rushed him, as you described. And that was the order you testified today. Counsel asked you if you had testified or told the police differently. Remember that conversation?
Yes.
Today, your memory, do you recall seeing the light shine or illuminate these folks before the defendant or before they rushed the defendant?
Yes.
You have a moment, Judge?
Sure.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, I'll turn to members of our jury and see if they have any questions for this witness. Looks like we do. I'll see counsel and court reporter to sidebar. All right, Mr. Mike, the jury does have some questions for you. The first question is, did you, Shay, and Stephen ever go into the courtyard area between the buildings?
I can say for sure that we didn't.
The next question is, what was Stephen doing while you were trying to help the victim after pulling the other guy off Stephen?
Initially, he was there with both of us, and I don't know where he went after that, but he seemed to just disappear. We stayed, but he was gone.
Follow-up, Mr. Barker?
No, thank you.
Mr. McCown?
There you go.
Can this witness be excused?
Yes, thank you.
And thank you, sir, for your testimony. You are excused. Your next witness?
The state calls Shay McConnell.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or do you swear or affirm?
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
How's it going?
Good. Can you state your name, please, and spell your last name for the record?
Shay McConnell, McConnell.
Thank you. Shay, how old are you?
20.
What year in school?
Sophomore.
At NAU?
Yes.
And what are you studying?
I am currently studying geology.
All right. And are you in a fraternity?
Yes.
Which one?
Sigma Chi.
Were you attending NAU in 2015?
Yes.
And would you have been a freshman at that point?
Yes.
All right. Do you know Stephen Jones?
Yes.
Can you see him in the court?
Yes.
Can you identify where he's seated, what he's wearing?
He's sitting in the middle of that, wearing a gray suit, blue tie.
Let the record reflect witness identified the defendant.
Granted.
How do you know the defendant?
He was a pledge within my pledge class, and so we knew each other for a couple weeks.
Okay. So this would have been the fall of 2015 then?
Yes.
Your freshman year, you're pledging fraternity?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a Sigma Chi?
Yes.
Got it. Did you meet him that day that you were pledging, or how did that work out?
We kind of met throughout the week, or throughout the first couple weeks of pledgeship.
Okay. And afterwards, did you hang out with him?
A couple times, yes.
Let me bring it back to the night of October 8th to October 9th, early morning hours of 2015. Do you recall that evening?
Yes.
Do you have a pretty good memory of that night?
Pretty good.
Okay. Let me ask a few questions. Who were you hanging out with that evening?
Stephen Jones, Jacob Mike, Hunter Todd.
All right, just the four of you?
Just four of us.
And Hunter Todd was also a freshman in your pledge class?
Yes.
Same with Jacob Mike?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your plan that evening, the four of you?
Originally, we were studying in the library and didn't really have any plans till later in the night. Someone suggested going to the Grove Apartments for a small party, if you will.
All right. And just describe for the jury where the Grove is.
The Grove is off East Franklin and I want to say South Knowles.
Okay. Is that off campus?
Yes.
Just barely off campus?
Yes.
Okay. So what time did you go to this party or this gathering?
I want to say around 9 or 10.
And this would have been on the 8th that evening?
Yes.
Okay. Who was driving, or how did you get to the party?
Stephen drove his car from the library, and we parked at Mountain View and walked from Mountain View to the Grove.
All right. Any reason why you parked at Mountain View and not at the Grove?
Honestly, not really sure. I think we just might have wanted to say hi to some other friends first, or we couldn't find parking. I'm not really sure.
Okay. At any rate, you parked at the Mountain View Hall in that parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. And the four of you then went which direction?
Up Franklin towards the Grove Apartments.
How long do you think it took you to travel that distance?
5 minutes.
And at the Grove, what was going on there?
It was just it wasn't even a party. It was just a couple friends over at someone's apartment, and they were just drinking a little bit. That's about it.
All right. You said drinking a little bit of alcohol there?
Yes.
Did you have any drinks?
No.
Do you recall if Hunter Todd did?
No.
Or Jacob Mike?
No.
Or the defendant?
No.
Any marijuana?
Me a little bit. No one else.
Okay. You take a hit or what?
Just a hit.
Okay. And anything happened at the party that you recall?
No.
All right. So what time did you leave the party? I'm sorry if I call it a party, a gathering, or whatever you described it as. What time did you leave?
Maybe around 12:30.
That would be early morning hours, just after midnight?
Yes.
On the 9th of October?
Yes.
Okay. And who did you leave with?
The same four guys.
That would be...
Hunter, Todd, Jacob, and Stephen and me.
Okay. And where did you go?
Back to Mountain View where we were parked.
So did you go back down that same street, Franklin Avenue?
Yes.
Along the way, anything happened that caused you to separate from any of your group?
Hunter was walking a little bit ahead, and when we got about towards where we were parked, we noticed that he was not in front of us anymore. We didn't know where he went. Yeah.
All right. So if I understand correctly, Hunter Todd was walking ahead of you, the three of you?
Yes.
The three of you being yourself, Jacob Mike, and the defendant?
Yes.
All right. And do you have any idea where he went?
Our best guess was to Courtyard, because we knew a few of the Sigma Chi actives that lived there, so we thought maybe he just wanted to say hi.
Okay. And you referred to the Courtyard. We've had some testimony already about this place, but just describe it in your words what the Courtyard is.
Just a two-building apartment complex with 4 separate apartments in each and a small courtyard in the middle.
All right. Hence the name Courtyard?
Yes.
Okay. So you believe that Hunter had gone to this area. What did you do to find out where he'd gone?
We were just trying to call him, get a hold of him.
At any point, do you recall going into the Courtyard area?
No.
So where were you?
We were on Franklin Street, standing on the sidewalk in front of the Courtyard apartments.
All right. Were you making the phone calls to Hunter?
I was, I believe Stephen was. We were all just trying to get a hold of him.
Any luck?
No.
At some point, do you recall if anyone tried knocking on a door along that street?
Very vaguely.
All right. What happened?
I just remember at one point Jacob saying, you know, hey, watch this, and then turning around and saying, like, run the other way, or I don't know, something like along those lines.
What did you think was happening?
I just thought he was pulling some dumb prank.
Like a doorbell ditch?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
All right. So we just, for Steve's sake, we got to say yes or no. All right, so what happened after that? After you had this conversation with Jacob and perhaps he knocked on the door, you're not sure, but what happened after that?
We just kind of jogged across the street towards Steven's car. We were just going to wait for Hunter in the car at that point, try to get a hold of him, and yeah.
And what happened next?
We were about halfway across the street and heard the door behind us open, and out came like 6 or 7 guys, I believe, and they were shouting at us, asking what we were doing here, using various cuss words, and just trying to intimidate us, it felt like. And
Okay, let me break that down a little bit. Did you hear them exiting a house or a unit in the courtyard?
yes, I heard the door open.
Okay, and so did you see them exit, or you just heard it?
I turned around and saw him leaving the house.
Okay, and you said, correct me if I'm wrong, 6 or 7?
6 or 7 about is what I saw.
Okay, you recognize any of these guys?
No.
Do you recall what door they came out of?
I believe the far left door, if you were looking at the front of the courtyard apartments from Franklin.
All right. How far across the street, you said you were crossing the street, how far did you get before you had this interaction?
I'd say about halfway, maybe to the other side of the sidewalk, or the other side of the street.
Almost crossing
Yes.
Franklin. Okay. If you can recall, Shay, what were they saying? What words do you recall them saying?
They were saying, what the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here. Various stuff like that.
Okay. Did anyone at that point say, we're going to kill you?
No.
Did you ever hear them say, kill anything?
No.
Did they say they were going to beat you up or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
All right. Where's the effect of what are you doing here? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Sorry. We just got to get in that habit. Sorry. Okay, so what happened after they came out and were saying these things to you?
After we reached the entrance to the Mountain View parking lot, we were still kind of being defensive, and these guys were pursuing us. And from behind the group of guys, someone ran up and punched Steven in the face.
Okay, so 6 or 7 guys, can you describe, are they in a clump or are they in a line? Describe that.
They're kind of clumped, but not like super tight packed.
Were all 6 or 7 of these guys saying the same thing, what are you doing here, or was it 1 or 2 in the front?
It was kind of, they were all feeding off each other and just spewing the same kind of remarks.
Okay, and then you said just now, you described someone come from the back. What do you mean?
I originally didn't see him within the group or didn't notice him, and he came from behind the rest of them.
Okay, do you recall what this person looked like?
No.
Nothing about how tall, short, ethnicity, anything
No,
like
I
that?
vaguely remember a white shirt, that's about it.
Okay, and what did that person do?
Punched Steven in the face.
Excuse me, and did you see that?
Yes.
Where did that happen, that punch?
Right at the entrance of the parking lot.
Okay, so describe that a little bit. The parking lot to Mountain View?
Yes.
Okay. And now, is there a big, for lack of a better word, sidewalk area that you would enter into to get to the parking lot?
Yes.
So where was it in relation to that?
Right there.
Okay. What happened after you saw the punch?
I started freaking out, like, what the heck is going on? People were still yelling at us, get the fuck out of here, and I was just trying to keep my distance. I could not figure out what was going on at all.
And were you able to keep your distance?
Somewhat. I kind of put myself in an awkward position where I was going the wrong direction that I needed to go, so I kind of had to work my way back through the crowd and in order to get to the parking lot.
What do you mean by that, going the wrong direction?
I kind of veered off and was almost going back up Franklin, in the direction towards the Grove, just trying to get my distance from these people. And yeah.
Okay. I got you. And then you came back toward the parking lot?
Yes.
And did you have any physical interaction with any of these guys?
Yes, after I worked my way back in, I saw Jacob Mike get pushed down, and then following that, another guy came over and shoved me to the ground.
Do you recall who those people were?
No.
And where was that shove for you?
That was right from the entrance of the parking lot on the asphalt, not the sidewalk area.
Okay. Just right at where the parking lot starts?
Yes.
And we'll bring up some images here in a little bit and have you describe that. Beyond that shove, was there any other physical interaction you had?
Not that I had, no.
Beyond that and the punch to the defendant and the shove to Jacob Mike, anything else that you recall physical?
No, not that I recall.
Did this verbal exchange continue?
Yes.
And were you saying things back?
Yes.
Like what?
I was like, we're leaving. Leave us alone. I don't know what you guys are trying to do. We're leaving. We weren't trying to do anything. We're just trying to call our friend. And yeah.
Okay. Now, was this group you described earlier kind of in a clump? Did it remain in that same clump as you were going into the Mountain View area?
Not that I remember. It kind of spread out a little bit.
Was it the same 5 to 7 people?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you just tell me again how many people you described?
6 to 7.
6 to 7, thank you. But it was more spread out at that point?
Yes.
All right, what happened after you got shoved to the ground?
I got up and kind of realized that these people were just trying to hurt us for whatever reason. And so I started running to the top of Mountain View.
What do you mean by that?
The front entrance where the roundabout is. I was running up the sidewalk area that runs parallel to the track.
Okay.
And I turned around after 10 yards or so, and that's when I saw Steven holding a gun, pointing it towards 2 of the guys.
Okay. Let me back up a little bit. Had you seen where the defendant went after he was punched?
No.
Earlier that night, did you ever see him with a gun?
No.
Any way he would have been able to conceal it on his body?
Absolutely not.
All right, so the next time you see him, it was where?
Job coming back from overseas.
The next time I saw him, I was
for more people.
10 yards away, and he was standing on the edge of the asphalt and where the rocks come in contact with the parking lot, and he was standing maybe 10 feet away from 2 people pointing a gun towards him.
All right, did you know it was a gun at the time?
I figured it was a gun. It had a flashlight on it. He had it on, and no one points a flashlight like that.
Okay, what do you mean like that? How was he pointing it?
He was pointing it like a trained police or anyone trained to hold a firearm.
All right, what was his stance like? Let me ask you that.
Stance, he was standing tall, leaning forward.
Arms extended at all? If you recall.
I don't recall.
Okay. Where was the light pointed, or the gun pointed with the light on it? Where was that pointed?
Towards the 2 men.
Okay, that was a bad question. Where was he facing when he was pointing this?
He was facing towards the building, towards Mountain View.
All right, thank you. And how do you know there were 2 people he was pointing at?
I could see them.
All right, were there
Flashlight.
anybody else around?
I didn't notice. I was just focused on this flashlight and the 2 men.
Okay. How far away were you from the defendant and from these other 2 individuals?
10 yards. About.
Okay. Did you see where Jacob Mike was at that point?
No.
Was there, besides these 2 individuals you described and the defendant, who else was around that area, if you remember?
The same people that were around before.
Were they all clumped together?
No, more spread out.
Along where?
I don't recall.
Were they in the parking lot?
Parking lot, on the sidewalk. Not really too sure.
Okay. And I appreciate you saying that, Shay. We just want your best memory. What happened after you saw the defendant pointing the gun at these two people?
One of the two men looked like he lunged towards Steven, and then Steven fired two shots into him and turned towards the other guy and shot one shot towards him.
All right. When you say lunge, what do you mean by that?
It was hard to recall, but almost like a lunge, like he was going to grab Steven or just out of intimidation.
Okay. And I'm not asking you to describe what was in that person's head because we won't know. What was he doing physically?
Just lunging toward him, taking a step.
Can you demonstrate for us?
It was more like a big step. So like...
All right. And it looked like you took 1 or 2 steps? How many steps was it?
From my memory, one.
1 step?
Just 1 step.
And how was his body positioned?
Leaning forward.
And how were his arms or his hands?
Don't recall.
Okay. How far away was this person from the defendant before he shot this person?
Within 10 feet.
Did this person that the defendant shot say anything that you recall before being shot?
I don't recall.
Did he have any weapons in his hands?
No.
Did he have anything in his hands that you could see?
Not that I could see, no.
How close was this person, the first person shot, from the second person shot?
Couple feet, 3 maybe.
So this second person the defendant shot, was he any closer to the defendant?
No, they were the same distance.
Okay. And just describe where they were standing before this lunge that you described.
From my memory, they were standing on the rocks that come in contact with the asphalt.
Do you recall the defendant saying anything before he raised this gun up?
I recall him saying, get on the ground, or put your hands up, stay where you are, those typical things.
Okay. Nothing about a gun?
Not from my memory.
And I should clarify, I said before he brought the gun up, did you only ever see it pointed at these people?
Yes.
I mean, did you ever see him pointing at the ground before that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so describe that. Take that in steps.
It seemed as he was walking over to where they were standing, he had it pointed at the ground, and then as he got within 10 feet, he raised his gun.
Okay. And after he raised the gun and pointed at these people, was that when the lunge occurred?
Yes.
Describe this light. Compare it, I guess, to the lights around in the street. How bright was this light?
It was a bright flashlight that maybe you would take camping, just bright LED flashlight.
Was it brighter than the lights around?
Yes.
How many shots did you indicate there were at this point?
3.
Okay. How fast were they? And what I mean by that was it just 1, 2, 3 right after the other, or was there a pause?
It was 2 right after the other, pause to turn to the second guy, and then the third shot.
And how much of a pause was that?
Half a second.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
What happened to these 2 people that got shot?
The first person who was shot twice just fell to the ground like a rock, and the second person kind of like fell to his knees first, and from my memory grabbed his neck. Maybe he was shot in his neck, I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall what these people were wearing, what they looked like?
No.
When you saw the defendant showing up with this gun, were you excited to see that he had a gun?
No.
Why?
A gun wasn't necessary.
Were you, at that point, concerned about what was going to happen?
Yes.
What did you do at that point, after you saw the defendant shoot these 2 people?
I turned around and ran towards the roundabout of Mountain View because I thought he was going to mistake me for someone or he was just going crazy. I just didn't know what to think was going on at the time, and I just wanted to get out of there.
Were you running away from these people you confronted earlier or from the defendant?
At that point, I was running away from the entire situation.
Okay. And why was that?
I didn't want to get shot.
Did you ever see where Jacob Mike was before you ran?
I vaguely remember him being towards the right, or the left of where I was standing, closer to the track.
Okay. And let me back up. Sorry to keep backing up on you, but when you saw these two people fall to the ground, how long did you stay after to see what was happening before you ran off?
5 seconds, maybe.
Okay.
I was frozen and didn't know what to think, and then turned around and ran.
Where did you go? Which direction?
Towards the top of Mountain View, where the roundabout is.
I didn't hear that part.
Where the roundabout is?
Okay. And would that be the front of Mountain View?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you go? How far did you run?
I ran all the way back to Riley Hall.
Is that where you were living at the time?
Yes.
Did you ever run into an officer at that point?
Yes, on my way down the hill from the front of Mountain View, I saw an officer coming up, and I waved him down, and I told him just make a left up, like where the sidewalk is.
Okay. Indicating what?
Indicating that something had gone on. I just wanted him to get there as fast as possible, so I didn't want to waste his time.
Okay. Do you recall hearing any additional shots besides the 3 that you indicated?
Yes, when I got near the very front of Mountain View and rounded the corner to the street, I remember hearing other shots after that.
How many?
From my memory, 4 to 5.
And so give us a sense of what was the time, how much time passed between those first 3 shots to this point when you heard the additional shots?
Maybe another 15 to 20 seconds after I started running.
Was it before or after you spoke to the police?
Before.
Okay. All right, and then you got to your dorm in Riley Hall?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did you eventually speak to the police about what you saw?
Yes, probably about an hour after I called the police.
An hour after you got home, you called the police?
Yes.
Okay, and then you went to the police station?
Yes.
Shay, I'm going to put up an exhibit that we've admitted as 316. And I'm going to ask you to identify some things that you talked about, okay?
Okay.
Just pull this up 1 second. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
And do you have a laser pointer up there?
Yes.
Can you identify what we're looking at here?
This is a courtyard. It's right where we cross the street, pretty much.
All right. So is this Franklin Avenue that we're on?
Yes.
Where were you when you recall, well, describe first, where were you when you were trying to call Hunter Todd?
When we were trying to call Hunter Todd, we were right around here.
And let me jump up to a different view here. All right, does this give us a better view?
Yes.
All right, so where it pointed again?
Right around here.
All right, and that's just, this is if you're facing the courtyard, the left, just the end unit on the left, right?
Yes, this unit.
Right in front of, okay. And then where did you go as you began walking away after Jacob Mike knocked on the door?
Towards this direction.
Let me take a different view here. Where was the confrontation that you talked about earlier in the street?
Turn more towards the right.
More to the right?
When did the confrontation start?
Yes, sorry.
Probably right around here, halfway across the street.
Okay. Kind of at the double yellow?
Yes.
And at one point, do you recall, or where was the defendant punched in the face?
Turn more towards the right. Right around here.
Okay, you're gesturing now onto that sidewalk area?
Yes.
Past the gate?
Past, right around that general area.
Okay. And where were you pushed, if you can see it on this view?
Can't see it on this view.
All right, let me take a different view here. Too far. All right, how about this one?
Turn more towards the right.
Right?
Towards the asphalt.
Okay.
Right around here, maybe.
Okay. Did you see anybody running into the parking lot? Besides yourself, obviously.
No.
Nobody was chasing anybody this direction?
Not that I saw.
All right, now describe which direction you went after you were pushed.
Up towards the roundabout.
And you're gesturing up this sidewalk area, up the hill a little bit?
Yes.
At one point, you described earlier, stop, and you went about 10 yards, turned around to look at what was going on. Where were you?
Right behind this tree, approximately.
Maybe we can see it on this view here. This far or farther?
Literally right there, pretty much.
Right here where the scan location is?
Yes.
Okay. Describe where you saw the defendant with the gun the first time.
Right here.
And you're gesturing the corner of the parking lot?
Yes.
And where were the two individuals that he shot? Where were they located at first?
On the rocks.
If you had to describe the distance that this the first shooting victim went before he was shot, how far did he lunge or take that step?
He was standing on the rocks and he took a step onto the asphalt. So maybe a couple feet.
So you indicated earlier it was about 5 seconds or so that you stayed in this area at this scan location number 1, right?
Yes.
Before you took off, and just tell us again where you went.
Up the hill towards the roundabout.
And I think we got a view of that. This direction?
Yes.
And the roundabout would be just past this track area, this fence?
Yeah, just right there.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, folks, let's take a first minute afternoon recess break. Please remember the